Okay, so welcome everyone. So good to be live here with you. And I have the lovely Lindsay Hack with us today. So, Lindsay, tell us just a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to do this live together. Substack has been something that, both you and I have been exploring and having fun with. So I'm pumped to be here. My name is Lindsay Hack. I'm the owner and founder of The Identity Hacker. And I use AI on the cusp of identity and visibility to make sure that we are seen and known on a very noisy online space. And so, somewhat like what you do, we focus on how to make our life easier. So instead of sitting down at a blank screen wondering what I'm going to post or what should I be posting, even though I know I should be, we use AI to help support that by creating tools and things that are going to help you that way, but also really making sure that you're seen and heard, because as the expert in this space, people need to see you and hear you and know who you are. So that's what I do. I have a school community, and I work with business owners and entrepreneurs who are just ready to be seen. And so, yeah, there we are.
I love that. Well, for those of you who don't know, I'm Angelina Shively, and I met Lindsay through Suzanne Taylor King, who was recently on Substack with me because she is a Substack expert, I'll say, and an expert in most things business-like. And Lindsay started a little bit before I did, but it's just been so fun to see all of your growth. And we are in similar spaces a lot, but obviously our offerings are different. And so I have been diving in a little bit deeper, and I know you have too with Claude. And for me, I'm looking more at from a systems point of view and how you can take what you're doing in your business and then integrate AI and make the systems flow a little better. And so that's kind of where I've been dabbling with Claude. And we were like, what topic could we, chat about that would be fun for our audiences, but also informative? And so you have been doing some amazing things. So I thought it would be fun if you could just tell us, like, I have to say, I watched your thing this week in the school group, and I was like just absolutely blown away. And I haven't had time to make the things yet, but tell us a little bit about how did you come up with that idea? Like, that alone, I'm like, that's a game changer.
Yeah, well, and you and I have talked about this a few times, and one of the things that I think Suzanne has taught us is we really come into AI with this idea of curiosity and play. And I often say to people, whether you're doing images or whether you're creating tools or systems like you do, playing with AI is the best way to learn, right? What other tool could we ever use to say, I want to do this, let's talk about that, right? Like, let's figure that out. And that's exactly what I've been doing. So from a visibility perspective, we want to create content. We need to have images. We need 400 plus images a year these days for content online, right? So how do we make that easier for ourselves? Because I don't know about you, but I know I've been a coach for 24 years. And the biggest thing that people say to me all the time is they don't necessarily love to do the marketing and the selling and the lives and all those things. They just want to do what they do best, which is coaching or business or whatever. And so I really started asking Claude specifically, what are some things that I do on a regular basis that I know help save time, really make a difference for me and what I'm doing? And then I was like, I shared, this happens to be a tool that you're talking about. So I created a carousel making studio, which is just a tool that I created that's personally branded with my colors, with my logo, all of those things, which meant instead of spending hours in Canva, which is what I had been doing, because, for some reason I thought I was a designer. I'm not. I don't want to be, but I would just spend hours in there.
But let's pause. We have to remind Lindsay to breathe because she talks so quickly. And I'm like, hold on, you're saying so many golden nuggets. So step number one, I want to say, I think that is, and if you're in the chat, tell us if this is you as well. But I've noticed that we all have this kind of perfection tendency that we want, because we're putting this content out into the world and it's our brand. And so we want it to be like perfect. Okay. So then what sometimes happens, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like we get in there and we're playing and we want to have it be so perfect. And so your mind was like, let me create a tool. So you're having this conversation in Claude, because I think this is important, that people need to just take time to like talk to it like you would another human, which sounds crazy, to flesh your ideas out. Okay, so you're fleshing your ideas out. You're like, this is what I want to see happen. And then what was
Yeah.
next?
Yeah, and I laugh because I do. I am like fire hose. I get very excited. So pause me at any time. But
Yes.
I do love to talk to Claude, like with my microphone and have a conversation. And I know some people are like, well, that's really weird. But guess what? If we had an opportunity to speak to some of the greatest minds in this world, hence what a mastermind really is, right? Mastermind is bringing our minds together. That's what you do with Claude. So for me, it was like, okay, I am creating in Canva for hours and I hate it and I don't want to do that anymore. So what are some things that I need to change that? And so of course we come up with, I would like to create a tool. Okay, well, what tool should that look like? And it's a back and forth conversation, right? If you've been in Claude before, it asks really great questions. And so then it was like, no, I don't like that, but what about this? And how about this? And so we created this tool for me. And I said, as part of my AI community, I have challenges every month. And we did a content machine challenge last month. And I shared my tool. Well, my tool is branded for me. So that's not going to help anybody else. So then people were like, well, how do we make that tool? So I went back to the same conversation and I said, I love this tool. How can I teach this to my community? And again, back and forth, trial and error, play, curiosity, questions, and then came up with this tool. And I taught it on Wednesday. And people are already doing things, they're posting things, and it's basically your brands, your fonts, your information, and all you need to do is fill in the words, for example, because this is a carousel maker, and then the carousel is created. And instead of an hour, I can do 3 carousels, which is what I do for my content pretty much a week, in under 20 minutes. That's a huge time saver.
Yes.
I mean, a mental time saver, because there's nothing worse than that mental, what am I posting this month? Oh God, what am I doing tomorrow? It's gone, because now everything's already in there. The colors, the brand, the information. I upload a photo, I use my brand colors, and I have a hook, and I go. And it's super, super simple. And somebody in the workshop actually had it built, set, and posted in Facebook in under 20 minutes. So this is not hard. It's just, how do we ask Claude the best things we can do within our business and then for our clients? And that, I think, is the key.
Right. And I also want to say too, having Claude pause, and because sometimes it just wants to start building things. So I have to say, hey, listen, we're going to have a conversation first. And then when I say go, then you can build it. And so I'm curious, for your tool, did you kind of like flesh out, like, these are the things that I want to include? This is how did that process work?
So again, very much a brainstorming process, right? So it was like, well, what would you like to include? And I said, I was thinking, well, this is what I think, and this is what I would like, and all of those things. Now I have, thanks to Suzanne, which again, you and I work very closely with, worked my Claude very, very well to know me, to understand me, to do it to the point where it actually is like, pauses me with a little bit of sarcasm, because that's kind of how I do it. And they're just like, no, you're not doing that, Lindsay. And I'm like, okay. So there's that piece to it as well, which is kind of my guardrails, right? But it was really just hashing it out and thinking, what would save me time? What would save me time? And as I said, it started with that Canva blank screen. And then it went to that mental, like, oh my gosh, I have to make this. It's too perfect. I don't want to do that. And then we just kind of built from there. So I created the tool. Then I asked people to try it. Did they like it? What didn't they like about it? What what worked well with them? And so then I took that feedback back into my project and I said, okay, we don't like this. I want this. The text is too small here, what have you. And then that's when I was able to teach it to everybody else. Now, there are still ways to fix it and change it, right? AI moves so fast. And now I'm working on, how do I make it video, not just photo? So I'm building every single time, but I'm going back into the same project that I already have to work on that tool. And then the next one I'll do it in a new project. And so it's just that curiosity is really great. And when have we ever been in a place where I can ask the tool how to best utilize the tool? I mean, It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It is amazing. And I think too, one of the things that I wanted to highlight, which is what I love, is that, you've built a community and you are providing these tools for the community. And so, like, when you think of, there's all this talk about like traditional courses and things like that, where that's one of the shifts that I love is that like it's the people who are in need of this tool, you're providing it for them. And I think that's really powerful.
Yeah,
And
and I think with AI specifically, it's changing all the time, right? So, when I first started in the AI community, we were focusing very much on images and creating your vision board, which obviously and I'm working within the AI imaging area, which I love. It's still such an important part. But even in the 18 months that I started, things have changed so fast that for me, it was about a community and upgrading and changing that. And I don't like that tool anymore. Where last year, it was amazing. And I think that's really important because it is moving so quickly. Nothing's worse than buying a course and then going to use it 4 months later, because let's be honest, that's usually what happens, and everything's changed and now I have to go buy another course. So my community was really about, what, changes are going to happen, and I want to be able to test them and try them out and then share them with you and change them with you and move them again. I mean, Claude right now is just incredible at making these tools, and I'm continuing to work with them. We don't know what it's going to be like in 6 months. So I want to make sure that my community is there so that I can turn around and say, okay, that's not working anymore. Let's do this instead. And let's do it together. And that is a big part of what I also do. We build together because 1 in 5 people are learning and not only implementing. I mean, think about that for a second. We have so much information out there, but less people are actually taking action to do something with that information. And I mean, you know that from systems, right? We have this ability, but not everybody's doing it. So my challenges and my stuff within my community are actually build sessions. Like, let's get done. Like, let's take action. Let's not just learn another thing and never do anything with it.
And that's one of the things, like we had even just recently a challenge in the AI entrepreneur community that was like a video challenge. And it was like, okay, day 1, here's this little bit, go and do this. Day 2, go and do this. And I think one of the fascinating things for me is like that you can be, for those of us who are just an ounce of creative, you can come up with something. You are incredibly creative, but I think, like being able to come up with ideas and take them from concept to action is like in such a short time is so amazing. One of the things that I wanted to share about playing with Claude was like, I love that we're able to see what other people do and then kind of be like, oh, how could I switch that up and do something for myself and, or be able to sell it. And so like recently I was like, I'm really feeling drawn and struggling with like meal planning and like all the things about being a mom. And I was like, what could I make up that would be helpful for moms? And so I was like, okay, I'm going to create a one master skill that you'll run, and then it will create the files, because that's exactly what I did for my business. That's what I've been teaching, like AI Dream Team, make it for your business, right? Where you set up your project and have the files describing your business. And I was like, what if we did that for the home? And so it's like, you're going to run the skill. It's going to know all about your family, your preferences, your everything. And then there's other skills that you can run. So I'm like, okay, this is my next idea. You just never know what's going to be able to get out there and share with the world.
And I love that, because I think that's the thing, right? When we talk about curiosity and play, right? Some of them are going to be a bust, and I'm not going to lie, I've had plenty of those, because I go in with ideas, and then I also, as I said, I have guardrails. So my Claude is like, Lindsay, is that really going to help you, or are you just playing for playing's sake? And that's okay too. I love playing for playing's sake, but what does that look like? And I have 2 teenage daughters, and so for me, there is a skill there that I really am trying to encourage them to understand, right? AI is changing the game. It's the first time ever that kids who just graduated, like my daughter last year, will potentially not have the job that they went to college for. So things are changing. And so, my daughter has a YouTube channel, and I said to her, are you open to playing a little bit? And so we went into Claude and we created a project, and we brought in other really great YouTube channel people that she follows, and we actually started bringing in information and talking to them and doing it. And I mean, she monetizes and makes pretty damn good money, I'm not going to lie, for a YouTube channel. I would like that. And so we used AI to come in and find out what her voice was and what her channel was about, and then we looked at some of the experts in that area, and all of a sudden she's like, whoa, this is cool, right? Because people don't understand that it's so easy to ask questions, whether it's about food, your family, your business. I call it your family manager, who, it looks after all those really horrible jobs that we have to look after as family, directors, and put
Right.
it all together. And that's the play, and that's the curiosity. And I think when people start thinking outside the box, I mean, I did on my podcast a few months ago, a woman who uses AI in Claude to get grants for farmers in the USA. And somebody was like, what does that have to do with what you do, Lindsay? And I'm like, it's talking about how to use AI outside of the norm, right? Chat GTP, here's your answer. How you find money for farmers with AI is now just changing the game with so many other things. So we have to be open to ideas. And some of them are going to be great, and some of them are not going to be so great. But look first at what you do and what you need AI for, because that's the other thing. I mean, I know you know this too, because gosh, we see it all over. New tool, new this, new that. You got to learn. You got to learn. We can't learn everything. We can't. It's impossible. So just because your best friend's sister is telling you this is the next best AI tool, first ask yourself, do you need that? Is that something that's actually going to help you, your business, your family move forward? If it's not, leave it, let it go, and move on. And I think that's going to be a big part of what we're seeing now is, what does my business need, my family need, my life need, and then find the right AI tool for that. And that's where that curiosity comes back into play.
And I think that's also why it's helpful, two things, to be number one in a community of people who are curious about these topics, as well as having, guides like us who are in it day in and day out, because there's definitely a feeling, I know for myself even, of like a fear of missing out, like, oh,
Mhm.
I have to take this latest course and this other new thing is coming, and oh gosh, what if I don't, XYZ. But I think that's why it's really important to get engaged with the people like us who can, say, okay, these are some of the things that I've learned. Because as a small business owner, you have a million different things. We are in AI day in and day out, but
Mhm.
the other businesses, they have other things that they're doing with, their marketing, and they're connecting with people and coaching and all of that. And so I think it's really a powerful thing to be a part of communities like that. What's the name of your community? I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, it's called the AI Identity Lab. And
Okay.
it's in school. And as you know, you're in school too. I love it. It's such a great place. But, I'm a big believer in going through and using what you need to use and leaving the rest, right? So, one of the things that I do in my community is I give everybody a personalized video to say how to get through the classroom, because the classroom is an overwhelming place, right? Everything that we're learning, there's a lot to learn. So, it's really finding what works best for them in their situation, depending on who that is. But I think that's huge. I mean, I know you did a in-person event, a few weeks ago, I guess it was, and just sharing very basic things. People are like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing!" So that's the other part, is that there are a lot of things being said about AI, being an AI coach, an AI trainer, whatever it may be. But the truth of the matter is, if you kind of step out of the world that you and I spend a lot of time in, there's so many people who don't know that this is as possible as it is, right? So as I said, going back to the teenagers in my world, I had a friend who said, would you be interested in coming talking to the teenagers, because they have questions? And I'm like, of course. And one literally created a website and a business like overnight, because Claude was able to use some of the things that we talked about. And she had her first appointment that next day. Like, it's just, the possibilities are endless. I just think that either people look at it too narrow focused, or they don't look at it from that curiosity and play. And if you turn around and say, just play with it, see what happens, ask a question, talk to it like we're talking to right now, and see what comes up. Some of the things are just absolutely incredible. I mean, I use my phone when I'm walking, because all the great ideas, of course, come on my phone, and I have a conversation back and
Okay,
forth.
let's talk about that.
Mm.
And for those of you who might be new to Claude, literally you can push a button, and it's like it will talk back to you like you're talking with a human. And that is just absolutely mind blowing. Someone was telling me that it laughed at it the other day. I laughed at them. I'm like, oh, get out. Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy. That's
That's hilarious.
crazy.
Well, mine definitely thinks it's funny. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It definitely thinks it's funny because it makes jokes, which is too funny. But I think, again, when you have your AI really dialed into you, I was talking to mine the other day on my walk, and I was just saying, if I change this or if I do that, what will happen? And it turned around to me, it's like, Lindsay, you're not Oprah Winfrey. Like, get over yourself. And I was like,
Stop. Stop it.
I was
Okay,
like,
that's
okay,
funny.
thank you. I mean, and I
That's
needed
funny.
it. I needed that, right? But it was so funny. And I was just like, okay. But that's the beautiful thing, right? It talks to me just as I talk to it. And some people might be like, that's very strange. But when you put it in that mode, it's like, hey, are you listening? That's how I always start mine off. And it's like, hey, Lindsay, I'm here. What do you want to talk about? And so then while I'm walking, we just talk. And then it says, I hear what you're saying here. What about this? What about that? And then of course, all of that is recorded in my actual Claude. So I don't have to worry about writing something down, forgetting my ideas. I don't know about you, but when my best ideas come, they always go just as quickly as they come. So I grab my phone, have that conversation in Claude, talk it out, and then define it and work with it once I get back home. But it's possible to then take all of that. And I have in my Claude and Notion kind of combination ideas that are parked right now because we have so many of them. But that's the other thing. The guardrail is that's not what you're working on right now. We'll come back to that later. And that's huge for me.
And so, like, one of the things Lindsay's talking about is having Notion be kind of like the hub where everything is like saved to so that it can record and put those thoughts. And when she's talking about guardrails, like, if you have not set, I call it setting up your Claude ecosystem. Like, that's one of the things that is so important, which, there's multiple ways to do it. But like the way that I, instruct is like, okay, we're going to take this one kind of intake and we're going to go through all these questions, and then it's going to create multiple files and we're going to put all that in a project. And if anyone wants that, I'll add the link, but it's a course or whatever. But I think that is what is one of the most important things when using especially Claude, because the conversations from one to the next, it doesn't remember the things that you've talked about. And so that can be super helpful.
Yeah.
What would you
And
say would be, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say I love projects and skills, etc. in Claude for that, because that's the beautiful thing is that you can then put them where they need to be. And then with Notion, I call mine my second brain, but with Notion, I can always go back and find something. And because here's the other piece that I just need to make very clear: Claude was down a few days ago. What happens then, right? I go to my Notion board and all my information's in there. So that's the other thing is that we have to remember is that, the place that you're going to put your information needs to be able to access it as well. And with Notion particularly, you can connect it to multiple different AI tools, which means it all comes piling in. So if anything does disappear or go down or whatever, you still have access.
Absolutely. Great advice. So if you had to give the listeners, like, what is your one biggest, like, either favorite thing you've done with Claude or your a tip of some kind?
Oh gosh, it's so many things. So I'm not going to lie, this new tool that I did create is one of my favorite things because it is so easy, and then you can brand it for yourself and do all those things. But I think the biggest thing, and this is kind of what we talked about at the very beginning, is go in with this idea that anything is possible. When you were like 5 years old and your parent or your aunt or your teacher said, dream big, that's how I feel with Claude, because really anything is possible. And if you go in with that conversation, I just recently created an audit again for me, for my clients. I create images, AI photo shoots for people. And, the idea of having to bring an image in, get them to kind of give me the yes, no. And it was super simple to design. But again, it was me just saying, this is what's I'm struggling with right now. I really need a way to help fix this. What are some of the things that we can do? And again, back and forth brainstorming. It's like, well, what do you want it to look like? Do you want it to say yes, no? Is it a red light, green light? Like, we had these conversations back, and it didn't make the perfect tool, but it's for me, so it's okay. If I do go ahead and teach it, obviously I have to maneuver it a little bit more. But that's the thing, is that what do you need support with? What tool could you use every single day that would help support you, just like you said with your family meal planning, and then play with it and see what happens. Right. That would be it.
And just have fun. I think it's like, and allowing yourself two things: time, like blocking it off on your calendar to be like, this is my time when I'm just going to allow myself to be creative and have some freedom in my schedule and not feeling like I have to be doing this or this. And I think that's when we can allow our brains to just experience that kind of creative energy, to be able to have new products and new offerings to share with people.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you said at the very beginning that, I'm a very creative person. And honestly, I'm not as creative as I portray, because AI actually has helped me be more creative, right? Try different things, do different things. I'm not the one who's like drawing or painting in the background. It was more of, I can do this, and it actually becomes more of a creative outlet. So I always say, now I kind of think in, what that AI image could look like or what that could be. And that's because I have given myself the opportunity to play. I spend my weekends having fun. And when I say that, yes, I could go for a hike or go for a run, but I also play in AI and do the things that I've wanted to do all week, but maybe didn't make time for. But as you said, blocking off time to do it, because otherwise it just doesn't get done, right? We don't give ourselves time to play with it. And if you go in with that curiosity and play, I mean, that's how I create my videos. I've done music videos, I've done AI videos where there's all kinds of branding and branding deals and stuff like that. It was because one day I was just like, I wonder how cool this would look, let's try this, right? And that's exactly where this has taken me. And so when you give yourself some time to play, it changes a lot, for sure.
I love that. Well, we will tell everyone to please follow and, follow both of our journeys on Substack, and we will share this in the community. And if you have any questions, to reach out, but definitely hop into our school communities. And, we would love to share the love of Claude with everyone.
Yeah,
All right.
exactly. Thank
Thanks.
you.
We haven't had any questions pop in, but if anyone wanted to ask anything in the chat, feel free. You have us for like a minute or two if there's anything you were wondering about. So, all
Yeah.
right, my friend. Well, you have a lovely weekend all, and thanks for spending your Friday afternoon with us.
Yeah, thanks. See ya.
Bye.